The year when everything went crazy. The year where everyone is innovating from the ground up to do the most basic things. And accordingly so, OnePlus also hit the reset switch. They went back to finding their true north again. In other words, Nord. The OnePlus Nord. OnePlus expresses making the OnePlus Nord as a device which brought them back to their basics. The idea was to design a product which is very similar to a product which put them on the map, the OnePlus One. What you get in the OnePlus Nord is something that is, I would consider, much better than the competition that you get in the same price range. All because of two main reasons. First, OnePlus chose to focus on the core things to make the experience in these core things better, because OnePlus themselves have perfected this over the period of time that they've been making phones. The second reason is OnePlus also chose to focus on the right amount of details which make a much better experience out of the phone. And today, based on all of this, I'm gonna tell you whether the OnePlus Nord is worth your time or your money. Mostly your money. So the one thing that is common throughout all the aspects of this phone is that even though the costs are saved through multiple ways, the small little details that were focused on make you not see the aspects where the costs are saved. And this is an ongoing theme that has worked great in some aspects, while not so much in the others. Starting with the design. The OnePlus Nord has an impressive design. It has a big screen, but is narrow left to right, so it's very easy to hold in one hand. The screen looks good too, covering almost the entire front of the phone, while also remaining flat and not going over to the edges. The front camera is a hole punch on the upper left corner, remaining away from immediate attention. The back of the phone is also made of glass, melting into the sides, making it easier to hold the phone. The back shines like it's matte, but is actually glossy and smooth to the touch. The little detail that makes it look more premium than it actually is. The glass melts into the sides, which are made of not metal but plastic. But the buttons are all metal. The little detail make the part of the phone which will be felt and you interacted with throughout of either glass or metal, while keeping the sides made of plastic, so as to save up the costs. This also helps in saving up on the weight, as the phone is very easy to hold and lightweight. The phone still has the mute switch from all the other OnePlus phones. The camera bump is a bit much due to the size of the sensor. So the design is somewhat clever. Whenever you hold the phone, it feels premium, it feels lightweight, it feels comfortable to use, while also you don't notice the cost savings that well. So when it comes to design, OnePlus Nord is good and clever. Like most of the OnePlus phones, except maybe the OnePlus 8 Pro. The OnePlus Nord has a weakness, and the weakness is camera. Yes, you get the hardware from OnePlus 8, but the OnePlus 8 camera in itself is not that great. It was fine, it was okay, but nothing much else. And yeah, the marketing term used here is a quad camera setup, meaning that there are 4 cameras at the back of the phone. But to be really honest, it's still a marketing term, because in the end, all of these 4 cameras, there are the 2 main lenses which I use the most throughout, while the other 2 are just surplus requirements most of the time. I'll tell you why. The 2 main sensors are the wide angle and the big 48 megapixel lens. The other 2 are a depth sensor and a macro camera. The depth sensor is okay. The macro lens is just bad. So it's really 2 main cameras which you will use throughout, while there is a depth sensor and a macro lens which you won't be using much. The shots from the main lens are clicked in 12 megapixels by default. The shots clicked with plenty of light are great, although lacking a good dynamic range. The details are also limited to outdoor and well-lit shots only. The everyday indoor shots are sometimes very soft, and the information in the darkest and the lightest parts are sometimes lost. You also have the option of clicking 48 megapixel pictures, which adds sharpness, but the dynamic range is further lost. The wide angle lens is a good option for versatility. Well lit shots come out great, although softer than the ones clicked on the main lens. The indoor shots do suffer with lack of details, and the softness is much more visible in almost every shot. The depth sensor helps in getting good portrait shots. The separation between the subject and the background is done well, and the depth effect seems deeper as the background gets blurrier the further back it goes from the subject, although details on the subject do suffer due to the lack of better processing. The front cameras are weird. Sometimes they make mess of skin tones. The details are not consistent. Colors also often seem washed out, and dynamic range is not good. And there is also an option of a wide angle lens on the front camera, but that also doubles down on the failings of the standard lens of the front camera. So really, in case you want to get a phone in this price range for the camera, maybe you should skip to the OnePlus Nord. So now that we're done with the bad part of the phone, let's come to the amazing part of the phone. The display. The display is the best thing about this phone. It's amazing, it's sharp, it's well saturated, it's colorful, it's 1080p, yet it looks more high res than that. And it's also 90Hz, so there is no discussion about tiny little details here. OnePlus gave everything they could in this amazing display. And it shows. Bad pun. But it shows. It's amazing. Even though we do not have the best processor in the phone, the 90Hz smoothens the cracks out and makes the phone seem fast and smooth, just like any other flagship, all the time. It remains sharp, punchy, with good saturation levels. It immerses you in the use along the day, while it also remains easy on the battery to actually make the phone last throughout the day. As for some display issues showing up for some people on the phone, the unit iBot doesn't seem to have anything like that. Even if it did, it's pretty much covered in the warranty, so you're safe in that regard. I do notice a minimal green tint which comes up only when the phone is off axis. So in case you want a phone which does not save up in regard to anything when it comes to the display, Nord is the direction you should choose. OnePlus Nord is good. OnePlus Nord has an amazing display. Get it if you want a great display. Let's now discuss another amazing part of the OnePlus Nord. The part that helps in separating this phone from all the other phones in the same price range. That's the performance and the software. Oxygen OS is simply the best smartphone UI experience you can get in this price range or even higher. It's very much like Google's version of Android, along with small little things sprinkled in from OnePlus, which makes it better and takes it a step ahead. The little details, the smoothness of the software, the optimizations with the processor, the lack of bloatware, being as close to stock as possible. That's all that makes the difference for the better. The apps remain open for longer due to the well-optimized RAM. The multitasking remains smooth until you do something really intense. While the 90Hz screen makes it seem smoother than it is, the OnePlus Nord gives you great performance for the price you pay. It remains smooth throughout until you do something like photo editing and image processing after clicking pictures at the same time, or you have YouTube videos on picture-in-picture while clicking high-resolution photos through the 48-megapixel lens. I know that combination does not make sense, but what the hell, I tried it. The Snapdragon 765G does take a millisecond more in opening apps. The older UFS 2.1 storage also plays a part in that. Along with this, I do notice it heating up at a certain point below the earpiece on the screen while playing games or doing something intense. Yet it remains smooth and handles everything you throw at it throughout everyday use. It never seems like a slow phone or a budget phone, but a phone which is just smooth as hell. So, get it for the performance. The last thing that I come to, which is another amazing part of this phone, is the battery. The sweet, sweet battery life. Yes. Good battery life makes me happy. This phone lasts an entire day pretty easily. 6 hours screen on time is a daily thing for me. It manages to remain at the same battery percentage while just lying around for a long time. A day of calls, social media, clicking pictures, playing a few games, texting, listening to music over Bluetooth, using the phone as a hotspot for some time will get you through the entire day just fine. And even if you manage to kill it before the end of the day, you can charge it up real quick with Warp Charge. You get to 70% in about 30 minutes and 100% is achievable within an hour. What's there not to like about the battery? It's good. It charges fast, stays on throughout the day. Makes me really happy. You want battery life? Go for the OnePlus Nord. There are some small little tidbits that I want to share with you. The earpiece sounds great, makes the collar at the end sound realistic. The mic on the phone also works pretty similarly for the caller at the other end. Reception remains steady. The speaker is just a single mono speaker, which gets the job done with its loudness. The quality of the glass on the screen is not the most durable, as it did get scratched up pretty easily. So I would suggest keep the pocket fully reserved for just the phone and nothing else. The haptic feedback is not the best, which has been a long-standing issue of the OnePlus phones in and around this budget. And there are some sweet animations with wallpapers whenever you unlock the phone. And OnePlus putting their focus on these things, that's something I very much appreciate, and I've always appreciated since the inception of the company. So the one thing that is common throughout the OnePlus Nord is the fact that OnePlus chose to focus on these little things. So to conclude, I like the OnePlus Nord a lot. It's an excellent phone for the performance, for the battery, for the display, and most of all for the software. If the camera is a priority, I would suggest you to skip it, but for anything else, this is a very easy recommendation. OnePlus made a great phone in OnePlus Nord, all because they chose to focus on the right things and the small little details. These little details hide the cost savings, elevate the smartphone experience for the user, and gives you a great phone which feels close to complete, all except in one department, being the camera. But then you also look at the OnePlus 7T. That's another great smartphone, and it is built better, it has a better processor, it has a better camera, and almost the same display. And the notch on that phone makes it look a bit dated, but in the end it's a better phone. So if you have some more money and you want to invest in a better phone, OnePlus 7T is an option to go for. In case you want an iPhone and you're okay with a dated looking great phone, iPhone SE is another option that you might want to consider. It has a much better camera with a single lens. The display might not be as great, but it has the most powerful smartphone processor, and it also promises at least half a decade of software updates. But in case you want to save up and you want a great smartphone for the price you pay, OnePlus Nord is a very safe bet. Show this to every friend you have who's on the fence for getting the OnePlus Nord. This video will help them. They will thank you for it. I will thank you for it. And it's a great thing to have gratitude from everyone you know. I'll talk to you in the next one.